Well, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen. I'm the product manager and sales manager here at Zyxel North America. Good to have you here. We're going to be talking about some of our new partner solutions, going over a lot of the items and products that we are using for all of your network needs here at Zyxel. We have a lot of slides to cover, so I'm going to jump right into things to get started. But before we get started, feel free to use the chat box or the Q&A. Q&A is probably the best one, so it saves the questions there so we can answer them as we go along. I want it to be interactive, so please feel free to use that, and I'll try to answer those as we go along. Let's just go ahead and dive right in. Zyxel Networks is a worldwide company, over 33 years of networking experience with 100 million devices making global connections worldwide, 700 employees in 150 different markets, with 1 million businesses using Zyxel solutions to delivering applications and solutions today. We work and deliver connectivity to millions of end users around the world. Especially in the US, there's a lot of these key partners that we work with, like a Best Western, Subway, KFC, to provide guest network access or any kind of just networking VPN connectivity, but delivering connectivity to millions around. And we use partners in the industry that are leading, get people like McAfee, Webroot, Bitdefender to providing security applications and integrating their expertise into our product line today. We have sales coverage in the North America. David, Chen, Andy, and Jacob are here to serve you as your sales reps. So your dedicated sales rep, depending on which state you live in or you do business in, they are the ones that will connect with you to provide you with pre-sales, post-sales questions, distribution questions, pricing, special pricing, deal registrations, etc. So work with them, bring them along when you need applications built out. We'll bring in our systems engineers as well, or if you need tech support, they're there to help you. We are solutions driven, and we're driven by your clients and your needs. So since we produce the products and solutions that you that you buy and that you install, you get to give us feedback on how to deliver or how to make it better for you. So we work with you to provide these kinds of solutions to your clients and work within that ecosystem to provide you an end-to-end solution. We have a comprehensive portfolio from security appliances, wireless solutions, PoE, switching, gateway network, wireless management in the cloud and in standalone mode. So everything you need to make a connectivity happen, think of Zyxel as your solution provider. So the biggest kind of selling point, the biggest application that kind of pulls all of these things together is our Nebula Cloud Platform. And it provides a powerful and effortless and scalable connectivity solution to protect, to connect, to manage your security appliances, your switches, and your wireless when you're using the entire Zyxel stack. So we're only one of the few vendors out there who has a complete stack of networking equipment to providing a cloud-based network management solution where you can configure and deploy even without unboxing the devices themselves. There's no additional hardware or software. There's no additional cloud keys that you need. And so you can install that from your browser or from using a QR code to scan in devices and move them into the different organizations into your cloud, really hassle-free and without, again, additional software or hardware. It's all housed within the devices themselves. So whether you use just our access points or maybe just our switches or even just our security appliances, you can take advantage of the cloud platform and then be able to add additional devices to that network as your customers maybe evolve or as you move customers into some of the newer solutions. And you can launch within minutes, because you can just get those devices to connect via the cloud solution. Once it's able to get connectivity, it downloads its configuration, downloads any updated configuration firmwares to install while you do the initial installation. You can access now the product to do configurations anytime, anywhere. So you can help to support, you can move to that business model of being a managed service provider, using the Nebula Cloud Control Center wherever you have internet access, whether it be on your tablet, on your phone, on your laptop, remotely. You can manage all of the things that you would need access to make sure that your customers are available, or even to make complex configurations remotely without having to open up any ports or any special doors or back doors or VPN tunnels to getting that kind of access and visibility. And that gives you some really great network clarity. One big question I get from new partners is that, do we need to have this kind of visibility into the network? We're typically a break fix type customer, and our clients just want us to install products and forget about it, just install it, be done with it, and leave. The problem comes in when you have to troubleshoot and you have no visibility into the network when they call in and say that they have some wireless problems, or maybe their internet connection's down, or maybe some segment of the network seems down. And the only option that you have is to come out there and, really just drive there and be on site. And that requires a lot of effort, a lot of time and money to do that as well. So that network clarity gives you now an ability within the cloud platform to manage multiple customers and multiple organizations that may have multiple sites within themselves as well. So you can have multiple customers in different orgs, and every org can have multiple sites. So you can deal with retail customers, or maybe some of your customers has multiple smaller stores or multiple dental offices, et cetera, that you can tie again to get together and give them a single place to manage, or for you to manage, and reduce your IT costs. You're able to scale to just a few devices all the way up to thousands of devices if you needed to. So it's a lot of flexibility. And again, that visibility is there. It gives you also access to creating guest network access, captive portal, user and device management capabilities, auto guest protection with guest isolation. All of these are things that businesses are asking for when you install their network. Can you give me a private network? Can you give me a network for my POS system? And then can you give also a network for my guests that come to the office and get Wi-Fi connectivity? So you're able to do that within the cloud platform here as well. And it's fast and efficient, especially when you're doing updates and you're scaling. If the IT was just managing a single device or maybe just their network, upgrading firmware from time to time is not a big deal. It's not that much effort. But imagine that in your scale, if you're trying to service tens or hundreds of customers, then all of a sudden the number of devices that are out there, when you need to do maintenance, you need to do firmware updates, make configuration changes, it can be a big hassle. So you're able to do that remotely in the cloud platform, and be able to deliver that to all the devices as necessary in that site, and be able to manage those policies very easily and efficiently. There's built-in user management as well. So if you need to do two-factor authentication, any kind of WPA enterprise or user access policies, that can also be configured there within this cloud platform without having to deal with a external platform like Radius servers, et cetera. So you can house all of that, manage it all under a single platform, and be able to use that across the different organization, or across the different sites within that organization as you need to. So people who are roaming, maybe they're going from office to office and you want to give them access for two-factor authentication or network access to the private network, you can manage that within that Nebula Cloud. Remote office is a big deal with the work from home, and a lot of people now working remotely to be able to do it securely and efficiently. So using L2TP, site-to-site VPN to make connections between those networks is a big opportunity for you to be able to manage for the customer and be part of your service offering. And that's all housed within our award-winning cloud networking platform, our NCC, which is our Nebula Cloud controller. And it's helped a lot of people, millions of users out there using these using these devices out there being managed within our Nebula Cloud platform. And you can also customize those widgets as well, as you saw. You can use for every customer, You can have different information, how much bandwidth they're using, how much PoE they're using, what sites people are going to, et cetera, for that particular customer. And you can change that within, the different views for all your different customers if you find that necessary. You also get mobile application notifications within the mobile app. So when there's logs that you've asked to trigger, if there are, devices that have gone down, maybe connectivity issues, or maybe security policy issues, it can send you alerts and alarms as necessary. So you can get notified of that through the mobile app or also through email and reporting as well. And there's currently over 100 devices now in our Nebula platform. So the wireless security and switches, you can find more information on the range that is supported at zyxel.com/nebula. And you can also go there to kind of check out the demo as well, or sign up for a account for Nebula. So we have two things within the Nebula products. You'll see products out there that's called Nebula Flex and Nebula Flex Pro. Nebula Flex is just a terminology we use to identify that this product can be used in either standalone mode or in the Nebula cloud. But typically they don't contain any licenses. It's a kind of an optional license if you want to add the cloud platform to it. Products that say Nebula Flex Pro in the description means that they include either 1 year or 3-year licenses of the Nebula Cloud software that opens up all the advanced features that's available within Nebula. The pricing goes with, it's a device-based licensing. So per year, per device in the cloud. And there's things that open up. Obviously, there's differences between the Nebula Flex and Nebula Pro. I won't go into too much of those details. We do have a Nebula webinar that we do pretty much every month that will cover a lot of those little details there within the Nebula platform. But did I mention that it's also free? We also have a free option that's available within our Nebula Cloud platform. So we have a base pack that gives you free Nebula Cloud. It's a kind of a 24-hour window log. It gives you that backend. It gives you a lot of information in terms of configuration, people's access. But most of our MSPs and partners will go to the Pro Pack for the devices. We run a 30-day trial on the Pro Pack. So if you're new to it and you haven't been using Nebula before, I definitely encourage you to get some hardware equipment and put it onto the Nebula Pro Pack and see, all the things that you can do with that. But there is a plus pack that's in between. It's kind of a mid-tier license, gives you some additional features that you may need to use tools, for day-to-day or to speed up and simplify those kind of day-to-day operations. But again, most MSPs partners that we work with, they use Pro Pack. And the cool thing is you can have different customers in different tiers. You may have a break fix type customer. You put them on the base pack so that you still have access to visibility remotely to configure or to check and to troubleshoot. But then you can have another organization that is on the Pro Pack. So that customer subscribes to maybe your active managed services where you're doing active management, you're doing active kind of visibility, security, et cetera. You want to go to that Pro Pack. Now, the MSP pack are for partners who maybe have a lot of different organizations that they need to scale kind of cross-organization management. That may mean like you might have multiple admins or multiple tech support that facilitates maybe certain customers that they are managing or they're helping to support, or maybe like regional tech support, and you want them to span across these multiple organizations. The MSP pack helps you to do that. You can do it without it, but it's not as convenient. And also, there's some additional features like reporting and alarms that you can set in the MSP pack for just notifying certain people for those customers rather than just notifying, everybody within your list. So that's just kind of an overview of our Nebula Cloud platform. And in general, it helps to simplify your installation, helps to simplify your management, your control, configuration, provisioning, auto provisioning, et cetera, within a cloud-based platform. So that's really a great benefit across the board. And so now I wanted to cover more on the product level side, so you have some understanding on our three main technologies: Wi-Fi, switching, and security. And so some of our technology, again, it's always moving. Wi-Fi specifically is moving and changing a lot. It's always a new thing that comes out, maybe a new Wi-Fi standard that eventually comes out every few years. But what Zyxel provides is kind of a static kind of AP, what we call dual optimized access points, and smart antenna technology access points. And those provide different kinds of benefits. So static is just static. It's just the AP. It has its antennas and it just kind of communicates. What differentiates dual optimized antenna devices from maybe the static is that this allows for you to choose the orientation, whether you install it in a ceiling or a wall mount. And it changes kind of the configuration and how the beam of the antenna is working, so that it can communicate in that space better. So just think of it like it could either be a cone when it's installed on a ceiling, or it could be more like a football if it's just being installed on a wall. So it kind of can cover the floor. So you can switch that and toggle that within the device itself, physically, or within the GUI interface. So here, this is an example of just like a wall mount and a ceiling mount. So if you wall mounted, you'll see the bleed can go between the floors, which will cause interference and doesn't work very well because it doesn't go as far out within the floor. So you want to change the kind of the optimization there to change it to the wall mount slider, so that the radio then communicates within the floor, out to the floor. So there's still distance, and there's still interference between if there's walls and things like that. But in general, that makes it a lot better without interfering within the different floors. So this is great for hospitality or buildings with multiple floors. The smart antenna technology is a patented, award-winning wireless technology that Zyxel holds the patent for. And this allows for you to manage co-channel interference. So in the past, to deal with interference within Wi-Fi, you had to see that there was some sort of interference, or if you had a high density area and you deployed multiple access points, there's inevitably going to be co-channel interference because there's bleed between the channel spectrums. Even though you're using 1, 6, and 11, there's still bleed over, and it causes noise, causes interference. So the usual way, the traditional method of dealing with co-channel interference was always to turn down the power. So you weren't just yelling and screaming within the room. Each access point was just not yelling and screaming, but kind of talked in a more more controlled manner, so that it doesn't cause too much interference with other devices. But what happens is if you turn down the power, you lose kind of the overlap of coverage, and so you may have some more dead spots that's there. So they're not a great option. It's kind of a combination of both. So keep that in mind when you're deploying Wi-Fi. But smart antenna helps to increase capacity, increase coverage, reduce interference in a way that is very unique with this. So with smart antenna, how does it work? So let's say you have other APs or other devices that may cause Wi-Fi type interference. And those clients that are sitting there, across the room from it are getting, interfered with because of the noise. Now, with smart antenna, you're actually able to do some scans on the Wi-Fi client and create and look for an algorithm and optimize the antenna pattern on how it communicates to the client. So it's like, I'm cupping my hands, I'm talking to you, and I'm all at the same time listening to you. It does not require any kind of special software or any kind of special, the devices don't need smart antenna. So we are doing all the work to helping in mitigating the noise that's behind us. Even when the devices are moving, it will change its pattern accordingly so that it can listen better to those devices and be able to provide better coverage, less interference. That means better throughput. And that's been really tested even on the third party side, comparing with some of the major brands that are out there. And we've been able to outperform all of them. So it's a really great solution to look into. It is one of our flagship models. You'll see our model names. You'll see an S at the end of it. Anything that has an S in the back of a wireless AP stands for a smart antenna technology device. And anything with a D on it is a dual optimized antenna. So some of the Wi-Fi models, you'll see in just a second. But overall, the solution provides you a single click wireless mesh solution. So there's no, if you're trying to enable meshing maybe to another hop within the network without having to run Ethernet cabling, you can do that as well. All you have to do is really provision the device to make sure that it can connect to the network first to get its identity to be part of that mesh. Then you can just take it over to the remote location to do that extended mesh. It also has enterprise class Wi-Fi security, WPA2, WPA3, anything you need to do with 802.1x authentication. There's roaming standards that are built in as well to help you with fast roaming, fast authentication as you're roaming. People always ask me too, do I need these standards in order to do roaming? And the answer is technically no. All this does is it helps to authenticate. If you're using 802.1x authentication, where in order to make a connection to the Wi-Fi, not only do you need the passphrase passkey, but there is a username password that is getting sent as well to authenticate you to the AP. So it's another level of security within that. But your traditional Wi-Fi roaming, where you do go from one AP to another, that's a factor of the devices themselves. And so we do have some special AI within the devices that help you to do that roaming. We also onboard devices easily and smarter with what we call dynamic personal pre-shared key. So it allows for you to differentiate a network based on the pre-shared key they use rather than just the SSID. So you can have one universal SSID if you needed to, and based on the passphrase that they're using, let's say their passphrase is private network, then they get into the private network version of the Zyxel network. Or if they're using the guest passphrase for the SSID Zyxel, they get put into the bucket, put in the VLAN for the guest network. So again, it helps to clean up the space there, so you don't have 4 or 5 different SSIDs within that space. And it's really practical within maybe multi-tenant units or hotels that you want to have just a single SSID without having, clogging it with, hey, this is a conference SSID, this is a Wi-Fi for guests, this is for your private, this is for your POS, right? So all those SSIDs could be kind of universalized into just one SSID, but based on their passphrase used to jump into the different networks. So that again helps to onboard devices, even devices like secure IoT devices, Bluetooth devices, et cetera, that maybe need to connect to Wi-Fi, and you want them to easily connect to a separate network. Then again, you can make it really easy based on that passphrase. The AI machine learning that I had mentioned earlier helps to manage kind of the channels, move clients between access points and channels as well. So the access points, I said that the devices like your phone is connected to the AP, and as it roams, it's the one that typically is the one that decides when to cut off that AP, when to jump to the new AP. And usually it's based on the signal strength. The signal strength gets worse. It looks for another AP and tries to connect to it. So we can actually use the cloud and AI to set a threshold to make sure that the device is at a certain kind of a bad negative DBM to kick them, so that they are forced to reconnect to something that's closer to another. Especially again, if you're creating networks that are overlapping and there is a bleed over, it may be that the device is right underneath the next access point, but because it still sees the other AP within its thresholds, it never moves. And so the user could face kind of degraded performance. So we want to be able to force them over to the new AP so that they can get better coverage, better channel utilization, and cause less interference in that process. So we also design the hardware itself. So we're committed to all of the RF designs. You can see the shielding in the housing. We shield all of the Wi-Fi controllers, the antennas, et cetera, to provide the maximum kind of performance that we can. And with Wi-Fi technology, it's always with Wi-Fi 6, smarter, faster, throughput, et cetera. So You have to also be careful because we're dealing with different bands. Wi-Fi 6 is currently sitting at 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands, but you'll see shortly Wi-Fi 6E, and then Wi-Fi 7. There's another consideration within the 6 gigahertz band that you need to take into account when you're deploying. So with Wi-Fi, we break it down to simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate, it's kind of subsections of our products. On the simplicity side, these are pretty much non-partner discount. They typically move on the online channels for these kinds of products. You're still available for you to buy. Maybe you have projects that need that, and we support you on a deal registration on these. But primarily, most of our partners are using our professional level products to delivering MSP type solutions, and that's what I would trust, mostly for the partner business. But we do have customers say, hey, I just need a low end, entry level access point, or maybe an outdoor client access point bridge that I'm just making the connectivity, just for simple connectivity. Then these are the types of products that you use. I would still suggest you stick with maybe at least the NWA 90AX in this kind of product line scale. But ultimately you can move up to the 210AX, or we just launched an NWA 220AX-6E. So that's a 6E version of it. You can see some of the difference in the specs. Like the NWA 210AX has a multi-gig 2.5 gig uplink port, and the PoE there for an injection. So they all have PoE. They're all PoE capable. Usually it's PoE plus, and then some of our higher end models we have PoE plus, so the ultra PoE. So this is kind of our first stack of our simplicity models and the differences between feature sets and functionality. So if you're really looking at like a WPA2 support or WPA3 support, you need to go to an NWA 90AX to kind of get that functionality. But then when you get to the NWA 110, you start getting lifetime warranty or limited lifetime warranties on the products. So that's also a, again, option for you to consider. Very low end break fix, the NWA 90AX, but then moving up to the mid tier, the flexibility tier within the 110 and 210 series. And then we have our ultimate series, and this is where most of our partners are using for their implementations into hospitalities, into networks, or into business kind of level networks, because they need some additional functionality. So that you can see the 510D, like I mentioned earlier, those are dual optimized antennas for ceiling and wall mount. And then the -6E at the end for the 620, that's our 6E capable. So it has a 5 gigahertz capable radio on that. And then our flagship models is our WAX 620, 630, 640 series. And those can come with 2.5 or even more in terms of the throughput. And the WAX 640S-6E, it's a smart antenna device with a tri-band capable a triple antenna or triple radio to provide you with 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz range. So again, keep in mind when you're deploying 6 gigahertz, it's a, the spectrum in that, or even the wavelengths of that, it is more prone to interference from walls and things like that, but it is a cleaner channel because it's different. It's a different range in the gigahertz space. So it gives you better, kind of communication between devices, or if you're trying to make a point to point, it's better for that. But again, it may not give you the same coverage as you would get from a 2.4 or a 5 gigahertz. So it's best to have kind of all those available so that those who can take advantage of the better or faster speed or the bigger wave, better spectrum of Wi-Fi space, then they can take advantage of that, or it will, give them access to the other gigahertz range. And our WAX 650S is our flagship. It has the Nebula Flex Pro built into it as well. And that's our Wi-Fi 6 AP with smart antenna. So again, those that have an S behind it, those are smart antenna. So again, the spectrum Wi-Fi 6 is using 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. And you can see the 6 gigahertz range with Wi-Fi 6E is a lot bigger in terms of its channel capabilities, including bandwidth. So you can go to the 160 megahertz channels and have a lot more channels that's available. Especially in the US, we get a lot more channels than the EU does. EU kind of closes off those spectrums that are there. But keep that in mind as you're building out networks to take advantage of all of this. all of these different channels and bandwidth utilization to speed up your usability. And of course, we have Wi-Fi 7 around the corner. It's 2024. They'll probably have some products. We'll have their maybe at the end of this year, you'll see announcements for Wi-Fi 7, and you can see the gigahertz jump there from Wi-Fi 6 is about 10 gig. But with Wi-Fi 7, it has the capacity potential of 46 gigs. So that's going to be a lot of bandwidth that's available. Of course, with any kind of technology, it depends on what kind of applications that may come up that require that and need that kind of bandwidth speed. And we're going to be still subject to, a lot of the uplink is going to be the kind of the biggest bottleneck. You won't be able to get to the internet, that quickly. So it's all something within the prem. Maybe it's video, AR, virtual reality, those kinds of things that might be able to take advantage of that kind of high bandwidth rate. So in the wired side, on the Ethernet, we have, again, a lot of products in a full solution there as well. So I just wanted to talk about our naming convention. Most products don't have an ES anymore, but in the past there was ES. And if it starts with ES, it means it's a 10100 switch. GS is a gigabit switch. An MG switch is a multi-gig. So it's a multi-gig type switch. Usually on the lower end, the effortless series, they use the MG net terminology. XS is just a Roman numeral for 10. So it's all the ports will support 10 gig, including multi-gig options. So 2.5, 5, and 10 gig options as well. XGS is a gigabit switch by nature. So it has all 1 gig ports, except for some dedicated 10 gig uplinks. The XMG are all ports supporting like a multi-gig. So it's similar to the MG, but it's in the business class products that's called the XMG. If it ends in HP, then it's a PoE or PoE++ switch. If it ends in EP, it tends to be like Econo Power, like an Eco Power device. FP is a kind of enhanced, larger power budget PoE. So you'll see some of those models on our high-end enterprise class light type products. And if it ends in F, it's typically like a fiber version. So all the ports are fiber, except for maybe some additional ports that are, either Ethernet or combinations of that. If it has SFP ports, then it supports 1 gig SFPs. If it says SFP plus, then it can go up to 1 gig SFP transceivers. So we have SFP transceivers modules that we sell as well for different distances and different wavelengths and different types of fiber if you're doing fiber applications. We also have some direct attached cables that people will use. They are called like the DAC10G. It helps for you to uplink. It's like pre-made transceivers tied in with 1 meter or 3 meter fiber, and it helps you to connect your different maybe 10 gig uplink switches together, like on a rack or something like that for your installation. So it's very cost effective. It's an easy way for you to make this connectivity without having to terminate your own fiber or finding your own fiber transceiver modules to do that. So to understand the application with switches, the biggest application is PoE. Everything is getting powered by PoE, whether it be access points, it could be devices, it could be computers now, could be industrial lighting, access control, PoE cameras, all of those are using PoE some sort. So right now, our current iteration is PoE Plus, which provides 30 watts. Usable is about 25.5 watts. We're seeing a lot more products in our higher end that will have the Ultra PoE. That's called PoE Plus Plus. It can deliver up to 60 watts with 51 watts of usable on certain types of cabling. So you have to keep that in mind too, even though there's better throughput and better power, you need to have the right cabling in order to facilitate that. So if you have Cat5e installed at the location, it's not going to be able to push 10 gig. You can still do the PoE, but those are kind of the distances that you're going to be limited to. Even Cat6, you won't be able to do 10 gig. But when you have Cat6a, then you're going to be able to push it to the full 100 meters there. Within the switching network, the application or the feature sets are quite extensive. You're able to switch between Nebula and standalone if you need to too, as well with the Nebula Flex type products. And then there's pro products that are available within the the product line as well. But it gives you access to vendor-based VLANs, voice VLANs, so automated VLANs, so it can automatically detect a device and put it into the appropriate VLAN. So that's really great for kind of IP phones or maybe IP camera applications where you don't want to have to program the MAC address in or to program it specifically to go into a certain VLAN. This helps to secure that. Auto detect and recover PoE devices. So if it can, devices are kind of failing or not sending traffic, we can also PoE reboot them. We use what we call intelligent PoE. So it will only draw the power against the budget of what the device itself is using. So if it's only using, 15 watts out of the 30 watt standard, then only 15 watt comes out of the budget. So that allows for you to put and power up more devices within the switch itself. Functionalities for CCTV, IPTV, and also machine learning to help you deal with broadcasting issues and maybe loops that are within the network. You can do that and manage in the cloud. You can visualize your network as well. It can automatically detect the network topology. You can manage it within that virtual switch stack and be able to see and drill into every port to see the connected device information, get some real-time port PoE utilization information, and access all sorts of diagnostic tools, including, cable testing, fiber testing, loop testing across that device, across that Ethernet to kind of rule that out when you're troubleshooting maybe an issue between maybe two devices. It gives you a level of security as well within our Nebula platform. It's packed with features that protect your network and maintain that uptime. It has cloud backup, restore of the configurations that you can manage within every customer. So any kind of break fix models or even, drop replacement, the device configurations can then be pulled in within the device automatically when it logs into the Nebula and calls home and gets its identity and says, hey, I belong to this customer, downloads that configuration automatically. It allows for you to do port security, user security based on 802.1x, auto network protection, loop guard, like I mentioned, DHCP guard as well. So in case somebody plugs in a router backwards within your network and tries to DHCP across your network, we're able to block against that. So it won't allow for that to kind of take down your network in the process. So it gives you a reliance on the network, or just a resilience within the network as well, to simplify things like link aggregation, RSTP, and different types of switch routing. So it gives you that resilience to make sure that it's always available. Be able to automatically deploy and configure these configurations easy with the cloud backup, again, to restore the switch configurations. You can clone different switch configurations to speed up your deployment as well. So even if you wanted to clone them from one site to a new site, it's really easy to do. And that's what I usually tell customers to do, is create a template, like a cookie cutter site for that particular customer or type of customer. Maybe it's like doctor's office where you have a access point, a switch, and a gateway, and you have it pre-configured as a template. And then you can be able to copy that within a new customer when you do the installation, scan an AP, scan a switch, scan a gateway, and be able to just say, hey, that belongs to this new customer. Then it can download all its configurations, and then you can modify them to customize it for that specific location. So it allows for, hassle-free and auto deployment within that space. And again, we break it down into simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate series as well for these products. So kind of on the effortless, these are just PoE injectors, but we do provide, if you needed just a one-off PoE injection for some application, you might have a pan tilt zoom camera that you need to inject PoE for and still connect it to the network. These are a great option. So we have a PoE 12-6W. It's a 5 gig multi-gig port uplink there, and ports with PoE plus 60 watt power injection. And the PoE 12-30W is a 2.5 multi-gig injector with a 30 watt power. So definitely, look at these as your options. If you don't need a full size switch within that application, these are great for those kind of one-off, or even, to power up a single phone that is, somewhere. Our 1915 series is kind of our step up from a not kind of basic web. The 1915 series gives you PoE options as well as Nebula. So it's a Nebula Flex type product. So it gives you kind of the lowest end Nebula capable switch here. For kind of, budget power. So they might have 60 watts or 130 watts of PoE power. So they're kind of the eco power modes, or maybe half the ports on the higher end models. You can see there, like the 24 port, 12 of them will be PoE. The other 12 are regular, gigabit ports. So again, it's just a budget there. There's also a GS1350 series. These are specifically made for CCTV applications or IP camera functionality applications, because they have what we call extended range functionality. You can enable extended range and allow for these devices now to deliver power, up to 250 meters instead of your standard 100 meters. So that's like 800 plus feet of Ethernet that you can deliver PoE injection. So then you don't need to put in a little extender box or a power extender in between to make it work for those IP cameras that are, coming in far of the building on a long pole. And these typically have larger PoE budgets as well. So 375 watts is pretty standard on these models. And it gives you stronger surge protection, auto camera recovery, and keeping the power on, even if the device, even if the switch goes through a configuration or a reboot, it will keep the active power going so that your cameras don't have to reboot in the process. Oops, I went backwards. So kind of this is our main lineup. Most of our partners start here in our 1920, 1930 series, and either move down or move up within the solution here to provide them, based on what they need on kind of the functionality applications. But GS 1920, that's our flag, kind of our main bestseller there, with our 10 gig XGS 1930 series. Again, multiple versions, 8 port, 24 port, 48 port with and without PoE. And then our XS 1930 is growing right now, especially because of Wi-Fi 6 and access points that need higher power and the higher multi-gig ports in order to take advantage of the throughputs that are capable within the devices. So some of them will have like the PoE and PoE plus, so plus 60 watts there on the XS 1930s. Or XS 1930s. And then we just launched an XMG 1930 series. So again, still in that same web managed plus cloud managed. These XMGs and the XS 1930s can be put to a layer 3 switch. So with a license, a one-time unlock license, it will go to and give you layer 3 functionality for those kinds of applications. You might be bidding on an RFP for that as well. So these ones will provide you up to 700 watts of power for PoE++. There's 20 ports that will do the 30 watts, and there'll be 8 ports that will do the 60 watt in this type of product configuration. And then our ultimate series is our 2220 series or higher. XS 3800 is like a kind of a hybrid. It has a lot of 10 gig SFP ports as well as 10 gig copper ports and a bunch of shared ports, so that you can choose configuration to be maybe more fiber heavy or more Ethernet 10 gig heavy. So depending on your applications, that is available. And that also, the XS 3800 gives you an option for layer 3. So we just recently also launched our XGS 2220. So that's our 10 gig version of the 2220 series. So layer 3 access and stacking, manageable in the cloud. So these products can be then stacked, virtually as well within the cloud, and deliver Nebula Flex Pro. Can have options up to 960 watts. So you'll see the XGS 22, GS 2220 54. Where's my mouse? Right here, 54 FP. That will be the higher PoE model, but even on a standard 48 port, it's 600 watts of PoE, and it'll be able to deliver a lot of power within that space. So these are primarily, again, gigabit ports that have 10 gig uplink options. So I was covering the switch. So the last section that I want to cover is our security products. So I think it's most important, especially this day and age with, cybersecurity out there. Even getting insured for cybersecurity insurance is a big topic, within this space. So making sure that the network itself is as secure as possible so that, MSPs are not liable, are doing their due diligence, and the customers are knowing that they're also doing their due diligence to protect their business, employees, and also any kind of guests that are there. We provide different security packs within the platform. There's like content filtering that also comes with like a 30-day trial. There's a secure Wi-Fi feature that also has a 30-day trial you can use or test out. Tied in with our APs, we have a security solution called Connect and Protect, and that adds some security policies and protection to our APs. On the AP side, the UTM security is what most of our partners use. It gives you all of the content filtering, intrusion detection, web filtering, email security, that kind of blocking. And then our gold security package is, again, our flagship. It unlocks everything, including sandboxing, IP and DNS reputation filtering. And that's available within our ATP series and our USG Flex series type products. In general, our security platform is there to constantly provide you, updated security. So you don't have to, manually do anything. We can actually check within our partners and all of our solutions that we've integrated in our device to make sure that it has kind of the latest threat protection and be able to give you access and your customers access for remote access, and be able to put different security policies in place to make sure that the network is operating as secure as possible. So you can put in policies that maybe block users from accessing BitTorrents or maybe social media or certain websites. You have full control over that, including, by user, by groups, by maybe by network segments or by SSID. So it's very flexible. You can even use the VLAN kind of capabilities to control access for guest networks, to limit people from abusing it or using it in a way that may impact the entire network. So you could set, session limits, you can set bandwidth limits as well within that solution. And it's here to protect users. So Connect and Protect is a big option to use if you want to add this functionality to the access points. It also includes collaborative detection and response. And what that feature does is it will detect, let's say, malware from the gateway side, and it actually can communicate to those access points that have this enabled to be able to segregate that device from that network to prevent kind of the spread, or maybe eliminate that potential for spread of that malware within that network. So we're able to make advances in that. We can centralize the provisioning and the synchronization of security policies across the different networks for a customer. So let's say you have a change where all of a sudden maybe a customer has, let's say, 20 different sites, 20 different offices. And now they want to add, the fact that they want to block everybody from social media. So you can enable that security policy and apply it across the board. And now all 20 sites will have that policy as you need to. So you're able to synchronize that and make sure that all the policies are up to date and managed in a single spot, rather than having to manage and do every single device, every single location, their security policy one by one. With remote workplaces, again, we can simplify that with what we call secure Wi-Fi by just deploying an access point that will build a secure tunnel through the existing network without you having to open up ports or anything like that. It can build a secure Wi-Fi, secure tunnel through that existing network back to the home office or back to the main office, and deliver kind of the same experience as if they were sitting in the office there. So it's a layer 2 connection that will happen between that. So it also can enable two-factor authentication, be able to manage VPN from point to point as well, and configure those endpoints that have L2TP. So this is kind of the visibility on that secure tunnel with the secure Wi-Fi. Again, you just drop it into an existing network. So people who are working from home, they can have an access point that is now in their home, connected to their existing, router or modem, and that provide them business access. So they can take their laptop home, their VoIP phones, whatever it may be, set up in their home office, and it connects as if they were sitting in the main office itself. Again, without you having to worry about switching out their existing router or opening up a VPN or anything like that, or, going through a complex VPN connectivity on the client side. And then, well, what if they have an iPhone they need to use it to connect to, or maybe some other phone systems? How do they make those VPN connections individually? So this kind of solves that problem. So you're also getting security intelligence with any kind of security products. You have reports, things that can show value to your customers when they use or maybe subscribe to your managed services. You can send them a report customized with your logo on there as well, that will say, hey, these are all the threats that you faced. These are your top users. This is how much bandwidth they've used. This is all of the websites, the top websites that has been gone to, et cetera, and be able to deliver that again to your customers every month to show them, hey, these are the things that you're paying for, and this is kind of the results that you're getting. And so again, it shows value on that monthly charge that you may be charging them for. And it will detect abnormal user behaviors and helps you identify that. It will monitor, identify threats, and you could seamlessly switch between the Nebula platform and this, what we call Secu Reporter. Again, it's broken up into simplicity, flexibility, and the ultimate series. And some of the main differences on the feature set. So the main difference between USG Flex on a kind of the UTM bundle to an ATP really is just the dual scan mode of the hybrid and cloud, the sandboxing, IP reputation, and DNS filtering. But what we've now recently added is that the USG Flex can become basically an ATP as long as you get the gold subscription license for the USG Flex. So it enables those same features. So in essence, you get an ATP. So you might be looking out in the market right now. We mostly have ATP 100s and 100Ws still in the market. We'll be getting some additional ATP 800s, but the 500 and 700 are pretty much sold out. And so we won't be bringing those in. Customers are migrating to the USG Flex 500 with gold package, or USG Flex 700 with the gold package right now. So those are kind of your options, and the 200. So 200, 500, 700s. Those are kind of sold out. So unless you found them somewhere, you're going to have to move to the USG Flex series with the gold license, and it'll give you the same performance and feature functionalities as those ATP models. So USG Flex, again, it's really flexible in that it gives you hardware only options, UTM options, and then now, enhanced UTM with sandboxing on the higher end. So we use Trellix, Webroot, and Norton to providing some of the security solutions and the sandboxing functionalities for that. So again, 100, 200, 500, and we can help you on deciding what scale, if you're not used to what users, how many users. This kind of gives you kind of a ballpark figure on users. When we say users, it typically is more like devices, but there's no limit. There's no user limit that we put on these devices. So again, it depends on what application, how big their WAN interface is, and how much UTM throughput you need to push through it in order to satisfy that WAN connection. In general, too, looking at the performance numbers, these are theoretical numbers that have been the max theoretical, meaning that we've pumped it through the largest packet sizes, and as many ports as needed to kind of find its breaking point, or finding it, the top level throughput that we can push through while these services are enabled. So in real life, it's not a full packet size. It's not the largest possible packet size that's getting sent through. All data is kind of different size there. So in the IMEX level, you might want to look at, let's say, UTM throughput, because that's typically the lowest kind of number. I usually use about a 60%. So a 60% rating. So at 550 megabits, let's say for the USG Flex 200 here, I would say that it's good for anywhere between a 250 meg, 300 meg connection will be perfectly fine when enabling all of the UTM services to doing the scanning. Now, if you're not doing some of those, or maybe you're using this in just a hardware mode, then the hardware mode you would look at more of just like the SPI firewall, or maybe you're doing VPN. So VPN might be the option to look at. VPN tends to be a little bit higher because you're not doing a lot of the scanning. So the throughput number is a little bit more than 60%, but I still use 60% again to give you a gauge. And based on that number, you may have to bump up to, the next product line level up. So this is good for like a 500 meg connection for the USG Flex, 500. And then the USG Flex 700 gives you even more performance there. UTM performance is like 1.3 gigs. So I would say that's kind of more like 700 to 800 megabits per second throughput with full UTM capabilities. And then the ATP, again, the main difference is sandboxing and the URL threats and DNS threats. Again, using Trellix, Webroot, and Norton for those kinds of solutions. And like I said, these are kind of phasing away. They're not going end of life, so we still support them. We're just locally making a decision to move towards the USG Flex because, again, it will simplify our portfolio, especially for partners buying and selling these products. It's good to have that model that can be kind of the standalone, the UTM, and then if you need enhanced sandboxing kind of threats for higher end applications or customers that need or want to subscribe to a higher level tier of scanning, et cetera, then you definitely can go to this option. So similar series, similar performance there, you'll see, but this one does have an ATP 800, which the USG Flex does not have. But the ATP 800 we're still keeping right now, and you can see the throughput on it is a 1.9, so that can give you gigabit-based UTM. So that's kind of where you would go if you have a 1 gig connection customer that needs full UTM throughput. But we do have a solution. And this is kind of a sneak peek coming up in October of this year. It's our USG Flex H series. So it's going to be secure, fast, and it's going to provide you a lot of protection in the long run. So keep an eye on this. We'll give you some more information on this later on as we get closer. But just wanted to give you a kind of a sneak peek that it's going to be it's going to be fast. So looking at the specs and such, it's going to help us with a lot of the gigabit throughputs that are out there without having to go to the highest possible end model to get that. So our solutions are here to connect businesses. So you can have a small office. You can use different combinations on maybe a slightly larger office. So again, mix and match of different types of Nebula. You might be using Nebula Flex, so then maybe you have even a larger that requires you to do higher density wireless or enterprise type features of performance. Then you may end up being, using our Ultimate type series with the Nebula Pro managed in there. You can connect larger scale offices with more APs, even larger offices or hospitalities with some of our higher end enterprise class APs to making those connections for Wi-Fi 6, maybe 2.5, 5 gig applications within those APs. You can put it in a small office, a home office, just to make connectivities there, or connecting rooms in a hospitality. So we have hospitality APs, wall mounted in-room type APs that will make that with PoE injection. We have outdoor rated products, ones with enclosures you can put in, or just standalone with built-in heaters and IP67 rated or IP66 rated antennas and access points that are out there, or making connections between different branch offices or multiple operations together using VPN or even wireless there. So that covers all of our products. We do have a partner program. If you are here, you probably have already subscribed to that or signed up for it. But just again, to let you know, you usually start at the silver and you can work your way up to the gold. There's no cost for you to join. You just have to be working with us and selling, Zyxel products and qualifying for the appropriate tier that you see there. We work with D&H, Ingram, TD Synnex, Wave, Target Distribution, and Pace. So any of those can provide you with Zyxel partner program discounts. So we work with you in the channel to provide that so that you can pass that along and make margin within your customers selling it. So if you want to connect with us, connect on LinkedIn, Zyxel-US-channel. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like to send me a request. Just search for Zyxel Tri, that's TRI. And on YouTube is Zyxel America channel. If you want to find out more information, want to watch this recording, you want to watch any previous recordings of different webinars, different trainings, different solutions, topics, etc., then go to Zyxel America channel, and then we'll have those there. We also have them posted in our webpage as well. So if you go to the webinar section where you register for future webinars, you can also see all of the past webinars that are there, and their links to go view those topics. So there's a lot of things to learn, a lot of time it takes to cover a lot of our products, but hopefully this has been informative. If you have any questions, you can send me in the Q&A. We only have like 2 minutes left. I don't want to go over time, just to be mindful of your time. But if you have any questions, feel free to send me tri@zyxel.com. And I can get the question or answered for you, or send you to the right people to help you with that. So until then, maybe we'll see you on our next iteration of Tech Talk and some of the other topics that we have. So look forward to talking to you again sometime soon. So have a good rest of your day, good rest of your afternoon, and hope to talk to you again soon. So thank you.